Lately, we've been getting a whole lot of questions about the best way to apply glue to a given project. Stay tuned, we're going to show you the 5 ways that I prefer. So before we get started, check out the link above to the tabletop glue up that we recently did. One of the things that you're going to find in woodworking is that the best way to attach 2 boards together is good old everyday wood glue. Works fantastic, and I've had a lot of questions come across lately about the best ways to apply that glue. So today we're going to walk through a whole bunch of those. And the first one is going to be the most simple, and we're going to assume that we've got our joint all ready to roll. We take our glue. We're going to call this a rub joint because it's the easiest one. And what I like to do is I open up my glue bottle. I like to get my little pinky down here on the end of it and just get it right in there next to that board. So that gives my finger a guide. So I can put a little squeeze to my glue. I can guide it right down the center of my board, have a nice neat line in there. And then what a rub joint is simply taking those joints, rub them together like this to spread that glue between the 2 joints. It starts to bond, and look at that. It gives full coverage over the entirety of that whole joint. So go ahead and rub those together, rub them back and forth, spread that glue, put an appropriate amount of pressure on that joint, and it's going to stay nice and tight for a long, long time. So that's a rub joint, easy way to do it. The next one I like to use is if I've got an application that is specific and I need glue to be just in a certain spot. A lot of times what I like to do is I like to take my old glue block here. I'll put my glue on there. Then I can get my little handy dandy glue brush out and I can just brush it on where I want it to be. I can control the quantity of glue. I can control where it goes. Brush that on there. Let's get rid of that little piece down in there. Particularly if I'm gluing like inside corners together and I don't want the glue to get all the way down into that corner, I can stop short of the end so that when I squeeze it together to put the pressure on it, I don't get squeezed out of that end. I've always used a block like this because I like to have my glue there where I can get to it easily with my brush, and whatever excess glue that I've got, it stays on the brush, stays on the block, and it just keeps building up over years. I've probably had this same glue block now for, gosh, it's probably 12, 13 years now, and just keep applying it, keep using it. But the point is, apply the glue where you need it, when you want it there, with a brush rather, and a little glue block that I like to use. So that gives us our glue application with a brush. Next thing I like to do, particularly if I'm doing large tabletop applications or large panel glue ups, is I really like these handy rollers that, excuse me, that I've gotten at both Woodcraft and Rockler. And what it is you got your bottle of glue contained here. You've got a little roller down here that's a little bit on the porous side. And then it's got this funnel that comes out of the end of it. What I like to do is I like to roll it in this direction so that the glue is coming down on the top of my roller, and I can apply it to my piece just like that in slow motion. Then I'll pick it up and I'll go back and I'll spread that glue out a little better. I don't need a whole lot of pressure. I don't want to put it on and then back it off and take it off. That doesn't do any good at all. So put it on, apply it, go back, spread it out, go all the way to the end. And one thing I like here that you'll notice is I've got a real even cover of the glue on the piece. And I have always been of the opinion that if you're going to put 2 pieces together, put glue on both sides of that joint. I want to make sure that both sides are well covered. The spots where I have a dry spot, well, dry spots don't stick together. You got to have the glue on there. I've always done it that way. I've never had a joint fail due to lack of glue on it or lack of pressure. I have seen people that tried to get skimpy on the amount of the glue that they're going to use and not get enough in there. And it doesn't matter how much pressure they apply to it, and pressure being the catalyst, of course. It doesn't matter. If there's no glue in there, it's not going to hold together. So I've seen plenty of occasions where people have not used enough glue and had their joints fail. Worked in a commercial panel shop years ago in college making butcher block tables. They had an auto feed machine that would take the glue through a glue applicator and it would push it through and it would apply glue to both sides of that joint. They'd put it in a big press it together. It stayed real well. So there was always plenty of glue. Yeah, you got to work with the with the seepage that comes out, the squeeze out, you got to take that off. But I'd much rather deal with taking squeeze out than having to redo a piece because the glue joint failed. I didn't have enough glue in it. So always a proponent of doing both sides of the glue joint. So one of the next ones that I've got, and I've done this quite a few times. This is a piece of good old everyday, I think it's 5/16 1/4" threaded rod. And where that comes in handy is if you want to spread that glue out and get it nice and even all over the surface, put your glue down on your piece, take that threaded rod, lay it up on there, and run it down there. Look what that does. Spreads that glue perfectly on that board. I get a nice even coating, and it's not so thick that it's going to run out all over the place, but I'm going to get a nice, clean, even coat on my board. That's going to get all my glue where I want it to be. I can control how much is going off the edge by tilting my threaded rod a little bit, keeping it on the board and going down there. That way, I've got a nice, clean, even round of glue on my board called threaded rod. Go to the hardware store, ask them for a piece of threaded rod. That's what you're going to end up with. I've used the flat plastic scrapers as well. Didn't care for those much. I couldn't get the glue to stay as even as I'd like. So a good old everyday piece of threaded rod. The only thing I will caution with both the threaded rod and the roller on your glue bottle is do not let that glue dry on the roller because it's hard to come off. It doesn't want to come off. You got to get in there and pick it off. So as long as you get to that within 15 minutes of application, you can wash it off. It's water soluble. Same thing with your threaded rod. If you let the glue dry in there, guess what you got to do? You got to get out a wire brush and scrape it all off. Same thing with your glue brush. I'll normally take this and drop it in a glass of water, swish it around a little bit. That glue will dissolve. Put it back up on the rack. Use that brush. Probably use them 40, 50 times before they're shot. Put it in water, dissolve the glue. And then lastly, if all else fails, you got these. Generally one on each finger. What you can do is just get out the old finger, put it on there and go like this. It's a sloppy way to do it, but it works, and it works real well. If you got to use a different finger, you can do that too. Get it on there, get it nice and even. Wipe the glue off your finger, get it on there, spread it around. There you got your glue applications. Real simple. We did a rub joint. You rub those two boards together. This one's been sitting there for about 5 minutes. I didn't put a whole lot of pressure on it, but I put a little to it. Yeah, it stayed pretty well. Figuring that there hasn't been any pressure put on it. Pressure being the key. Glue catalyzes by pressure. So it's pressure activated. The pressure acts as a catalyst to compound the glue and make the bond form. So it takes pressure. That's why we put it in clamps. And we'll talk clamps here another time, but that's why you put it in clamps to up the pressure on and get the pressure build up. Once it creates that bond under appropriate pressure, it is just about impervious. In fact, I've had situations where I've put panels together, had enough glue on it, had enough pressure on it, go to try to break them somewhere after the fact, and the glue doesn't break on the joint. It breaks off the joint. So the fibers of the face of the joint itself don't break, but the glue or the wood rather will come and break back off of that glue joint. So actually the joint ends up being stronger than the wood itself, which is pretty phenomenal. So you got a rub joint, you got a brush on the glue block, you've got a roller coming in, you've got a piece of threaded rod coming in, and you got old everyday number one, we are the finger. Use them all, wash the glue off when you're done, and you'll have a fantastic experience with gluing your boards together, making sure both sides are covered well with glue. Wipe off the excess when you're done, and you're ready to rock and roll. So if you got any questions on that or comments on it, love to have the comments. Leave them down below. And again, check out that video we've got linked up to the top for a big, giant table glue up that we did recently.